I want to kind of preface this conversation because a lot of times, our audience and every audience of wrestling out there is very diverse. A lot of people out there don't really care about the nuts and the bolts of wrestling when it comes to, the fans who are lucky enough to go to a lot of wrestling events. They just want to talk wrestling. And that's why even a show like Busted Open, which is on SiriusXM Radio, might not even touch on this topic because a lot of them just want to talk about what they see on the TV, because when it comes to attending events or going to them, travel plans are not stuff that they chit chat about, prices of things, because for the most part, a lot of them, some of them even work for WWE, like Bubba Ray Dudley, right? They're going as sometimes invited guests. So these things don't affect them. Maybe if it's to an extreme nature, they'll chat about it. But for the most part, they just care about who's in the main event of WrestleMania, who's, in the main event of Monday Night Raw. They're not necessarily talking about the weight of the line to get in, the concession prices, things like that. The average everyday fan who is lucky enough to get to attend some of these events. But we knew that WWE was doing something different this year with the Hall of Fame, and we got tipped off a little bit when tickets went on sale for SmackDown, and they didn't necessarily talk about what was going on with the Hall of Fame. And this goes back, it's crazy now, it's been 21 years since the Hall of Fame ceremony has been tied together with WrestleMania weekend. Every WrestleMania, it's tied in with the weekend. Normally, it's the night before. But then as things started to evolve and things started to change, for example, right, we moved to two-night WrestleMania, right? We moved to having NXT and their Stand and Deliver takeovers as a part of WrestleMania weekend. Friday Night SmackDown is now, on Friday nights. The Hall of Fame had to kind of get creative a little bit. And for the last couple of years, they have been adding the Hall of Fame ceremony in with SmackDown because there's really nowhere else to cram it in on the weekend. So it's been happening after Friday Night SmackDown with NXT normally Saturday morning. That's the problem with two-night WrestleMania and Friday Night SmackDown. You don't have enough time for all this stuff. And last year, WWE kind of put out feelers, I guess, in the rumor mills that they weren't necessarily happy with how the Hall of Fame / SmackDown went. And I can understand because, as these go on and as WrestleManias are on the East Coast, for example, like they were last year in Philadelphia, it makes for a long night. I don't necessarily know why they put Paul Heyman on first, they got what they should have probably been expecting, and that's either fans leaving after Paul Heyman was done, or the fans who stayed, like myself, just completely worn out and tired, right? It's a lot of wrestling in a short amount of time, as my girlfriend likes to say. Too much wrestling, not enough time. And it makes for a very long night for the SmackDown in the Hall of Fame. And we knew this year, obviously, with SmackDown now 3 hours, and what happened last year with the Hall of Fame, with people essentially leaving after the first inductee, wondering what they were going to do. So they had a lot of options. Some of them good, some of them not so good, but they chose an option which is not good for anyone. And what I mean by anyone, I mean there's two people it's good for, and I'll mention those two people right now who are going to clean up from this. TKO Endeavor, right? Because they just want money. That's what they're 100% interested in. That's the most important thing. And the Fontainebleau Hotel and Casino Resort, who had no events going on in WWE WrestleMania weekend. They now have one, the Hall of Fame ceremony, so they get some exposure as now the official hotel of WrestleMania weekend, right? I forgot they kind of existed. They're a somewhat new hotel and casino that got its own storied history, if you will, but they're going to be a part of WrestleMania weekend in the sense of they get the publicity, they got the event, they're getting some money. So anyone who's making money on this, you're the winners, but literally everyone else is a loser. So WWE decided that last year, with the Hall of Fame, for some of us like myself, staying in attendance till 1 o'clock in the morning, that seems like a bad idea. So instead, this year, how about for those who are on the East Coast, the show doesn't start until 1 o'clock in the morning, which it will start on the East Coast at 1 a.m. Eastern time. For those on the West Coast, after sitting through now a 3-hour SmackDown, in which many people already bought SmackDown tickets. They were not cheap. One of the more expensive SmackDowns you can buy, of course. A lot of people expecting, like myself, the Hall of Fame to be included somehow in it. They decided, no, you're going to sit through the 3-hour SmackDown. And if you choose to go to the Hall of Fame, you will then 2 hours later, meaning instead of just 10 o'clock on the East Coast, it's 10 o'clock on the West Coast. So it's late for everyone. It's either late for those in attendance or it's just not watchable for those on the East Coast. There's like one or the other. It's either midnight for those in Las Vegas or 3 a.m. for those not, right? Lose for everyone. But then obviously it's a small venue, right? And I'm not against it being its own separate standalone thing in a small venue. I liked it back when it was many years ago. But now being in a standalone small venue and TKO being in charge, as you can imagine, ticket prices are, let's just say, absurd. The packages for tickets started at $2,000 when they went on sale earlier this week. Tickets did go on sale to the general public today, or like the pre-sale. They started at, after fees, just under $300. Now, again, this doesn't include SmackDown. This is just the Hall of Fame ceremony itself. So last year, somebody like myself got to pay $50 to see SmackDown and the Hall of Fame ceremony tied together in one long 5-hour show for sure, but for about $50 American. And a couple years ago, I got to see The Undertaker get inducted into the Hall of Fame, tied with a SmackDown. For what I paid was around $40 American, because I tied it in with a Raw ticket for the Raw After Mania, and the Raw After Mania, SmackDown, and the Hall of Fame cost me $95 total for all of that. But this year, I paid $100 already to go to the SmackDown, and to go to the Hall of Fame would cost me an additional upwards around $300 for the worst seat. $300. And again, it's at a horrible time. So what I mean by, this, sometimes people watch it on TV and say, hey, I don't really care what the price is. I'm not going anyways. Who cares? But to those who are just watching it on television, right, this is bad for Peacock, because you now have an event that doesn't start till 1 o'clock in the morning for a large chunk of your audience, AKA, people are going to watch it, but it's going to be a 50% of your audience going to be watching this on replay Saturday morning, right? Yep. You then have the people in attendance. Let's say I've got the money. Let's say money is no option, right? Am I going to be going to the Hall of Fame ceremony that's just been sprung on me last minute with tickets on sale a day after its announcement? When I've got maybe tickets to go see NXT Stand and Deliver at doors open at 9 a.m., show starts at 10 a.m., down the street. Because it's not just, again, this isn't just about money. This is, if money's no object, do I want, because that's the thing. The girlfriend in my house, right, plans on going to all of this stuff. She doesn't think about the price because she thinks it's going to be affordable. So when she hears a Hall of Fame is when it is, she has no care about the price. She's talking about, I just don't want to do this because this sounds exhausting. This sounds to be not the answer of what you had the problem with last year. You're making this longer in the sense of 3-hour SmackDown, 3-hour Hall of Fame, 2 hours in between, essentially just enough time to get from one to the other, because they're not near each other or next door to each other. You got to drive or Uber or taxi, whatever, right? So this just means just as long an event, if not longer, now just separated over 2 different venues with an exorbitant price. And now even for the television audience at home, this is not appealing because, again, it starts at 10 o'clock on the West Coast and 1 a.m. on the East Coast, meaning Triple H is going to be giving his speech at around 3:30 a.m. Eastern time. Brandon, I know you've been silent through this whole little rant. What is your takeaway? I know you didn't know a lot about the Hall of Fame stuff going on until I just introduced it. But what is your takeaway of the Hall of Fame being at 10 o'clock Pacific time, 1 a.m. Eastern?
My initial reaction, because obviously just you dropped it on me. We were going to discuss it, and we were talking about it, and you're like, probably a good idea for get my initial reaction, because I'm dumbfounded by how dumb this is by WWE. It's poorly planned. Why not keep it? Why not, like, you got a 3-hour SmackDown? Why don't we just make it kind of like kind of a mixed bag, so to speak? Make it Hall of Fame SmackDown. Like, make it, like, brand it that way. Like, hey, this is the Hall of Fame SmackDown, and then it's people are there's going to be reasonably priced. And it's also not going to essentially kind of be at like 1 a.m. our time. Like, it makes no sense to me. That is ridiculous. You said a lot of people will probably be watching it on Peacock the next day. Yeah, I'll probably watch it at like, I don't know, 6 a.m., 7 a.m. And then I'll have enough time to flip on and watch NXT, because NXT is starting early as well. So it's like, to me, this whole thing is poorly planned. Out of all the stuff that WWE has done good as of late, this is falling flat. It makes no sense. And like you said, $300 just to get in the door, that's a little ridiculous for Hall of Fame. Overall, I'm just dumbfounded by this. I will probably check it out later on. Like, I'll probably watch it. Maybe I might even watch it that day. I might watch it on like Sunday or something, because I might just get around to it later, because I would rather watch the NXT pay-per-view over this, to be honest.
I remember The Rock last year around 12:30 in the morning when he was giving a speech for his grandmother, and he said something, I'm going to try to wrap this up, going to try to make this quick because I know this has been a long night, and I know it's getting late, and I know a lot of us, tomorrow WrestleMania is here, and we got to get back to our hotels because tomorrow's a big day, right? He said that at 12:30 Eastern time with WrestleMania the next day starting around 7 o'clock Eastern time. So what is Triple H going to be saying at 12:30 Eastern time when he knows a lot of that audience, like I said, 12:30 Pacific time. He's going to be when a lot of that audience is going to an early morning NXT. Maybe they're skipping it. I don't know now. But then also WrestleMania, the doors open at like 2 p.m. with the show starting at 4 p.m. So this isn't just like now it's late, but don't worry, WrestleMania is not until 7 o'clock tomorrow night. Now it's like late, and by the time I get up, I got to go right to WrestleMania. So you're out at 2, 3 o'clock in the morning. WrestleMania is, like I said, doors open at like 2 p.m. So it's not just late for one audience and early for another. It's late for all your audiences, not early for anybody. It's in the middle of the night for literally the whole country. It's going to, like I said, be at midnight in Las Vegas, not watchable on the East Coast, completely unwatchable in like the UK, because now we're talking about like 5 a.m., 6 a.m., ridiculous. Even, maybe it's watchable because it's 7 a.m., like you're talking about like straight the next day. But, for those who are just trying to get from one thing to the other, I don't want to get back to my hotel at 3 o'clock in the morning just to, with WrestleMania, again, being at like 4 p.m. start time, 2 p.m. doors open, like an NXT being 9 a.m. doors open, 10 a.m. start time. It's just like a lot. And some people might already have tickets because this is, again, something that is just kind of sprung on last minute. Nobody kind of knew about this, so it's not like you could plan this. There's people out there who drop $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 on WrestleMania packages where they want to make sure they're hitting it all. They've got Access, they've got Raw, they got SmackDown, they got all of this. But yet the Hall of Fame wasn't part of any of that. So imagine dropping $40,000, being told you've got like good seats for everything there is to see, and then, oh, by the way, the Hall of Fame isn't included with SmackDown this year. That's a separate thing. You want to drop another $10,000 because literally there is a package that costs $10,000 just for the Hall of Fame for like a front row seat and a meet and greet with Lex Luger and all that. So you could have dropped already $50,000, like emptied your bank account, got WrestleMania booked, solid, you're done, you got it all. And then there's like another event that they're adding. Like, I feel like if you have those packages, you should straight be given a ticket to the Hall of Fame at least. Not be like, oh, did we forget to mention the Hall of Fame has nothing to do with SmackDown this year?
Makes no sense at all.
Yeah, and it's, I get it that the money grab that it is, but I will say this much, and I might still not be going to the Hall of Fame if so, but you could have done this on Thursday night at a reasonable time. I don't know why you didn't do this on Thursday. I mean, maybe the Fountain Blue was busy that night and that's who you wanted to work with, but that's your option. If you're going to change it up from years past, that's your option, Thursday night, because that's the free night.
You know what you do? Like, I'll use NASCAR, for example, because NASCAR does like a Hall of Fame thing, every year. And it's essentially almost like a dinner where it's like, it's like the inductees, their family, members of the sport, things like that, where, and maybe not necessarily you don't need to have the fans of the Hall of Fame going forward. Make it like I know TKO and WWE, the whole.
They want the fans because they want the money.
Yeah, they want the money.
They got $10,000. Some of these people are going to pay.
It would make more sense though to do it on a Thursday, say 8 o'clock at night. You put it on Peacock, and it's almost like a cocktail event, where you got people where it's like a dinner, you have nice tables, everyone's dressed up nice. Do it that way because to me, it waters down the Hall of Fame itself. Like you got Lex Luger, you got Michelle McCool, you got Triple H going to the Hall of Fame. And this is probably the worst Hall of Fame to go into.
The natural disasters haven't been announced yet, but they're going to go in as well, it seems.
Well, yeah, I mean, what's been announced so far? As of
those three, and probably the natural disaster. Yes,
it sucks because you work your tail off to get to the Hall of Fame, and then it's like, oh, just by the way, you're gonna go on. Your speech is gonna be at 2 a.m. Eastern time. Like to me, that's ridiculous.
And I like that it's in the small venue. It's more intimate. It's cooler. It's like it was many years ago. It's not in the big arena. That's fine and all. But I guess my thought was that they were going to do something not to address the price. I didn't think they were changing the Hall of Fame because they wanted to jip me out of getting it for free. I thought they were doing it because they wanted a better product. They wanted it to be in front of a fresh audience. They wanted it to be at a reasonable hour. They wanted Paul Heyman's speeches and the Undertaker speeches to be at hours where people are watching them. I thought that's the problem they had with the Hall of Fame. all along, I guess the problem they had with the Hall of Fame is that we were getting too much for too little. That's, I guess, the problem. The problem wasn't that we were leaving during the Paul Heyman speech or after the Paul Heyman speech. The fact is that someone like myself got to watch it for $50, and God forbid that ever happens, right? We got to just jack up the prices. That's the issue, because again, they're not solving the issue with this. The problem was last year that people were falling asleep at 11 p.m. Eastern time after watching the Hall of Fame. This time they want them to fall asleep at 11 p.m. Pacific time. That's no different. Like, I don't understand it. Makes no sense. And I feel really annoyed because I've said this for many years. Triple H is my favorite in-ring performer. Of all the Hall of Fames that I've ever wanted to go to, it would probably be this one. I mean, The Undertaker is really awesome, so don't get me wrong about that. And I liked all the ones I've gone to. But Triple H is my favorite in-ring performer. But I will say, I'm going to be at WrestleMania this weekend, or this year, not this weekend, but this year. And I will say that it was almost a foregone that I was going to go to the Hall of Fame. But I'll at least give it up that they didn't make it even, I guess, somewhat teasable. You know, if it was like a low price and stuff, I was like, it's a long, annoying night. Everyone around me is going to be annoyed that's going to have to go to this, but we're going. But, hey, good news for, my girlfriend or people that are coming with me, because they don't have to worry about if we're going to this or not, because once the prices came out, I was like, it's not worth it. It's not worth it when I paid $50 or let's say even $100 to go see a SmackDown and Hall of Fame in the past. And now you're trying to charge upwards of $300 just for that Hall of Fame portion, which was free before. And the crazy thing is now I'm very curious what they're going to do about SmackDown, because before SmackDown was 2 hours. It kind of sucked, but we were all there for the Hall of Fame for the most part. This year, SmackDown's 3 hours. They're not going to be including any Hall of Fame stuff because that's its own separate $1 million event. So how are they filling 3 hours? Because let me tell you, before I went to the WrestleMania where the Undertaker got inducted, and the SmackDown, and I can say that SmackDown absolutely sucked. And if it wasn't for the Hall of Fame, I would have been asking for a refund because that absolutely sucked. So now you better be delivering me a very good SmackDown, because there's no Undertaker induction. There's no Hall of Fame. It's just SmackDown. It's 3 hours. I paid a lot of money. It's like $100 for the get-in price. And that was a deal because it's even more than that now. I imagine they'll drop closer to the show. But the point is, now you better deliver on SmackDown, because you can't be like, well, we only have 1 or 2 SmackDown matches, but that's okay because it's a big package deal. No, now we're only getting SmackDown. So I better get like championship matches. I better get 3 hours of wrestling, because if you're going to pull out a bunch of promos for 3 hours, I'm not buying it because I get to see Lex Luger in a couple minutes. No, because I ain't seen Lex Luger. I ain't seen Triple H. So SmackDown better deliver. That's all I'm saying. And it's just really annoying because, again, they're really pricing the fans out. They're really just thinking that their product is something that it's not. And I don't think they'll learn their lesson this year because, again, the venue is very small. It's in Las Vegas. There are enough rich fans who will make up for it. And if they don't sell it out, well, $300 a pop, you'll make more than enough money. But I just hope that eventually, when it comes to all of this kind of nonsense nickel and dime stuff, it reminds me of last year when they were charging fans to go to that press conference before WrestleMania 40 with like packages, kind of thing. That, someday they're going to have the WrestleMania kickoff show outside WrestleMania or outside the pay-per-views, and that'll be its own separate admission if you want to go watch them like do the pre-show panel. You'll have to pay to go watch them do the pre-show panel.
If you're going to have a 3 hour SmackDown, in which you've already said, you just said it a minute ago, it was not a good. The matches themselves were not good. The show itself wasn't good. It was the saving grace was the Hall of Fame. That's why now as the wheels are turning, it's a 3 hour show. Break it up a little bit. Like maybe do like a 90-minute SmackDown and then a 90-minute Hall of Fame, and you kind of keep it in one, and then everybody's happy. You could do that.
Everyone's happy. It's done in time. And guess what? Triple H and all these people, they get to have their speeches on the USA Network at a reasonable time for everyone. And it's in front of the largest crowd possible. Because let's be real, right? 3,000 people. Even if they paid $1 million a pop, it's only 3,000 people, right? So I remember the year that they did it in Brooklyn, where they started to tie it in with the other events, and I think they did it like in the ring. They started doing it from in the ring. And they were talking about how they actually, from the talent perspective, liked that better than the stage because it gave the talent one more time to go in the ring itself and kind of be in front of an arena full of people. So Lex Luger, unfortunately, doesn't get that opportunity, or the natural disasters. They're going to be in an intimate setting in front of only WWE's richest and wealthiest fans and dignitaries. And even the crowd at home, like I said, is going to be less watched, let's say live for sure, than it ever has before. So You feel bad. Like I said, no winners, and the talent, not just the talent that has to attend, the Miz's, the Dolph, the Roman Reigns, the CM Punks, those who have to make it a long night when they have to wrestle the next day and go to all these WrestleMania obligations. Maybe CM Punk's got an 8 a.m. autograph signing, but yet he's going to be in attendance at the Hall of Fame till 2:00 in the morning. The talent that has to both set up SmackDown and set up the Hall of Fame and run from one to the other. Triple H himself, right? He's a Hall of Fame inductee. He's going to have himself a busy night because he's going to be in gorilla position for SmackDown. Then he's got to run himself over to the Hall of Fame, make sure that's set up right, make sure that that's properly staffed, do all that kind of stuff. So makes for a busy night for the talent themselves. So it doesn't really feel like a night off for them because they got to be out till 2:00 in the morning when they've got 8 a.m. Autograph signings at the Cricket or the wireless store or the WWE World or whatever. So all around, other than the people who are making money, it's not good for anybody. It's bad for the talent who have to attend, bad for the talent who are there, bad for the fans who want to attend other things. Timing wise, money wise, I just don't like it. And I hope the bubble bursts on all of this sooner rather than later.